Hello, my name is Cyril. I'm Global Product Manager for the bioinsecticide at Produkt. From the beautiful Produkt studio, I wanted to welcome everyone to this new format of webinar. The purpose is to make you up to speed on biocontrol in open field crops in a very short time. Today the show is about bean seed fly and onion fly control. We are filming this in summer 2025 and we know that the pest pressure is very high in Northwest Europe. So let's not waste any minute, and I would like to take you to the lab where Kay, our R&D bioinsecticide lead, will tell us more about these two pests.
Yes, Cyril, right. Let's learn more about this Delia fly. If I show you these two flies, you may tell me they look exactly the same. And in fact, it's true, they look very similar. With my naked eye, I want to be able myself to distinguish who is who. But the truth is, those are two different species. One of them is the Delia platura, so-called also the bean seed fly. And the other one, his brother, let's say, is the Delia antiqua, the onion fly. And both those species, they may occur in your fields and they may make big damage. Actually, it's not the fly themselves who does the damage, but it's the larvae of that fly. They will go in the field and they will feed from your onion. But what are the differences? Well, there are differences between those two flies. Bean seed fly, Delia platura, it actually feeds from more crop than just onions. It can feed from multiple crops, and it also like particularly the dead plant material. So it's really important to keep your field clean as much as possible. Also, these flies can occur several times, up to 5 times per year. So it will not damage only the early season of your crop, but also later in the season, even just before harvest. So it's very important to keep control of this fly till the very last moments. These flies can also navigate through the soil. It's quite mobile because it's searching for food. So that's quite a feature of this species. On the other hand, the Delia antiqua, so the onion fly, this one is what we call a specialist. So it will feed exclusively on the onion. It occurs less frequently than the other fly. It's only 3 times a year, and this one will specifically make damage in the early season, so when the bulb of onion are still quite small. And this fly, basically when the eggs are being laid and the larvae they hatch, they will crawl down in the soil, they will find the bulb, and they will just go and hide inside and feed. So those are the main differences between those two species.
Thank you very much, Kay. For controlling this pest, we do recommend to use the product Capirel, specifically designed for use in outdoor crops with this long shelf life, highly soluble, biodegradable formulation. Based on the cold-tolerant beneficial Nematode Steinernema feltiae, it has proven to be the best candidate for controlling flies in vegetables. I would like to go back to Kay. Can you tell us more about these incredible tiny worms?
Yes, Cyril. So what are entomopathogenic nematodes? Let's just call them nematodes. Well, the nematode, they are these tiny worms that can parasitize certain species of insects. And how they do that? Actually, the nematode, they first need to search and find an insect, go inside the insect, and once they are inside, they release a bacteria that they were carrying inside them. And this bacteria will help secreting, let's say, toxin. And this toxin will eventually do the magic and kill the insects. The inside of the insect then will become liquids and will become food for the nematodes. They will reproduce, and then you will have a new army of nematodes ready to kill. There are different ways, different strategy that nematode can actually find an insect. Some nematode species are what we call embusher. What does that mean? Embusher means that the nematodes are not very mobile. They are more sitting in the corner, and when an insect will get close to them, then they will kind of jump onto them. You also have another strategy, which is more what we call cruiser. And the cruiser are nematodes that typically will actively search for an insect, so they're very mobile. And you have some species, like for instance the Steinernema feltiae, that have this mixed strategy. So it can at the same time encruise and ambush. So it's very powerful. They can choose which strategy to go for. Now when it comes to controlling Delia, yes, nematodes are very efficient at controlling Delia. And why is that? Well, the Delia, they are larvae, that, as I just mentioned, that live in the soil, where the nematodes are also being applied and thrive. And they are very soft skinned, so that also provides a lot of different openings for the nematodes to get in. we show that our Steinernema feltiae is particularly good at controlling Delia. Not only because it's very infectious, but also because it's very tolerant to lower temperature. That's why we recommend the Steinernema feltiae specifically at the early spring, during the early phase of the season, to protect the bulb against Delia.
Thank you again, Kay. Well, nematodes kill a lot of pests in the lab indeed, but what really matters is the field test. At Coopert, we value so much the field work that we even have 2 global teams involved in trials all over the world. One for the early stage trial and the regulatory trials, and one for showcasing the efficacy at growers. So now let's go to the field where Olga and Felipe will tell us more about the results.
Thank you, Cyril. Let's talk about one of the biggest threats to your onion crop, Delia antiqua, the onion fly. This pest can cause a serious damage to your onion crop, especially at the early season. The first generation of the fly is the most damaging because it attacks very young plants and transplants at the stage when they are the most vulnerable. In the areas like this, when there are a lot of onion farms next to each other, the intensity of the pressure can be very, very high. That's why we have been working very hard at Coopert trying to find reliable and sustainable solution for this big problem. Over multiple growing seasons and over different growing conditions across Northern Europe, we have performed over 20 field trials, and the results are very clear. When applied at the rate of 1.5 to 3 billion nematodes per hectare, Capirel can reduce the number of young plants that are damaged by onion fly at the early season, but also can reduce the number of damaged bulbs at the harvest by up to 70% compared to untreated control. What we also saw is that the marketable yield of onions has on average across all the trials increased up to 10%. What we have learned from the field trials is that timing is crucial for successful management of Delia in onion. You need to act right after the peak of the adult fly, when the eggs are hatching and the young larvae starts to be active in the top layer of the soil. That's approximately around early to mid-spring, depending of course on your area and the weather conditions and degrees of the days. That's where the monitoring tools can help you, because they can indicate when the peak of adult fly is happening. But what we also learned is that maybe environmental conditions are more important than actually the number of the flies. So our advice is to apply nematodes at the right conditions, rather than following and waiting for the right numbers. And what do I mean with optimal conditions or favorable conditions? Is when the temperatures are moderate and also the soil moisture is moderate. The nematodes need some soil moisture in order to be able to move and to find their targets. That's exactly when they are at their best and when they can find and kill their host. For the optimal results, ensure the good coverage of the base of the plant and also the top layer of the soil, and repeat your applications from 7 to 14 days, depending of course on the pest pressure. Our colleagues in the Netherlands have applied this strategy and they are very successful in controlling Delia damage in onion crops. As Kay already explained to you, another important pest in onion cultivation, but also in other crops, is bean seed fly. Visually, you will hardly distinguish both flies, but you can see them unfortunately in your crop. The bean seed fly is causing less damage than the onion seed fly in the onion cultivation, but still it's important to also be able to control it. For the control of bean seed fly in onion, we advise to apply our product Capirel at sowing and a few days after sowing. In that way, you make sure that you control bean seed fly in your onion cultivation.
After this extensive work done by our research colleagues, we could reach an interesting positioning, as Olga mentioned. So what the growers need at this moment is to keep the plants healthy in the fields. So controlling Delia, either bean seed fly and onion flies, will help the growers reach the harvest time with the planned plant population, because less plants were damaged by Delia. In average, our market development results, what does that mean? Commercial farms trials showed 0.3% plant losses compared to 9.5% losses using the market standard products. That's a massive difference between Capirel treated fields and market standard product treated fields. As you can imagine, and also aligned with the results that we have found on the research part of this positioning, 10% of yield increase were also found in those fields. The best trick to get the most out of these two are simple: timing and attention. So early in the season, pay attention to the weather condition and also the weather forecast. Plan yourself. When the conditions are good, please run to your sprayer, fill the tank with Capirel and go spraying. This is the best chance to reach the desired plant population in the end of the season and of course impact positively the yield and the profitability of your farm.
Thank you very much, Olga and Felipe, for confirming that biocontrol can work as effectively as chemical control, sometimes even better. Generally, the next question about biocontrol product is about the easiness to use. We tested the nematodes through many spray devices, like boom sprayers, without encountering any issues. Actually, very rare are the devices that are not compatible with spraying entomopathogenic nematodes. Only you need to care about a few things like the filter size. If filters are larger than 0.3 mm or 50 mesh, this is okay. Recently, our teams have even tested the compatibility with specific devices such as infrared sprayers, usually fitted on sewing machine. These devices are very convenient for bean seed fly control because it will put the product right on the seed where it needs to be and it avoids a tractor pass. So this is very convenient. In this case, the only recommendation is to use filters a little bit larger because such devices use low pressure, so we do recommend to use filters larger than 0.6 mm or 32 mesh. We did all this work in partnership with the company Orion, a Brazilian company now settling in Europe. And in the case where you cannot use infrared sprayers, Capirel can be tank mixed with a lot of plant protection products, insecticides, fungicides, nematicide, and even some herbicides. Recently, we have tested the active substances pendimethalin, clomazone, or isoxaben, and they are compatible with the use of Capirel. So this is very convenient in the case of post-seeding application. And if you want to check and confirm the efficacy, you can use our demo kits. They contain a sentinel insect. You just place them in the field, you spray as usually, and 5 days later you come and check the efficacy. Very easy and very relevant. Voila, this is the end. I hope these few minutes were well spent with us and that you learned a lot. If you have any question, please contact your corporate representative or check our website.